What's up, everybody, and welcome back to On the Break, the We Don't Know Where Josh Is edition. J Mac and Kyle Beats. Kyle, what's going on, my man? How you doing?
What's up, man? Glad to see you. Glad to be back. Hoping to get Josh back pretty soon. I know he's nursing some injuries right now and some ailments, but I'm sure we'll get him back soon. I mean, hopefully, I don't know what'll come back sooner, basketball or Josh, but I feel like we're seeing crazy stuff happen. Like in Texas today, we saw basically be announced that they're going to allow fans back into arenas. So it just has that feel that we're kind of just wanting to say, let's move past this and start turning things back to normal. But it's like, is that the right thing to do? Like, I get it. Like, we love sports as much as anybody.
But we've been very clear. We want it to be safe. That's
yeah. And I mean, I think obviously the state of Texas professional sports, like the Dallas Cowboys, are probably in a different headspace with, where their priorities are at versus like Adam Silver, who clearly wants to do it delicately and has made that really clear from the beginning.
Well, it's interesting because like every league is kind of in a different place with it for different reasons. So like, for instance, like I feel like the NBA is playing it safe and they're being very cautious and they're thinking out plans. But like, as of right now, I saw just before we came on the air, Woj tweeted that they are having a board of governors meeting on Friday, but they're not even going to vote on a plan. They have at least a few more weeks of trying to figure that out. And like June 1st was a deadline that they had kind of set of like a reevaluation date, and they're still not quite there yet. And it's one of those things like it's probably going to go off fast because it's going to like we're going from absolutely nothing to something. So it's going to feel like it's going to go off fast, but they've got to figure out a lot of things about like competition, fairness, like how they want to structure it. There's a lot to work out there still that they have to do. And they're honestly in kind of one of the better spots of all the sports leagues, though, other than like the NFL, just simply because there's still a good amount of time between now and the NFL season starting. But like I think, what was it? Goodell put out a memo today that was saying that coaches could go back to facilities and everything, right?
Yeah. So, I mean, the NFL is going to be way quicker to bring things back. They're going to basically just try to do things business as usual, except for, OTAs and mini camps might be slightly different, but they're planning on starting the season as planned right now. So that tells you for the NBA. So the NFL season is going to start first week of September. So that tells you for the NBA, you're going to have to begin at the latest like second week of July, because the playoffs, even if you jump straight into the playoffs, assuming you're not going to do any regular season games, that's going to take 6 weeks to play out. So you want that wrapped up before the NFL season starts.
Well, and I think more than anything else, too, the NBA is probably looking at this like, if there's going to be a second wave of this thing, it's probably going to be the fall, this winter kind of thing, right? I mean, we're not looking at a vaccine until way later on this year, if not early next year. And so the NBA is looking at this like, let's get this thing in there and done before the second wave breaks out, which is not, I mean, they're in a beneficial spot to be able to look at it that way.
I don't feel like, pushing late August, early September is a risk in Orlando at all, because it seems like, I mean, that's pretty much a lock if we bring this thing back, right? Like, it's going to be in Orlando at the Disney studio.
Kind of what it sounds like.
So, I mean, that's really not a risk. It's just like you don't want the finals with the first week of NFL. Well, I mean, I do, but the leagues obviously don't want the finals with the first week of the NFL season starting.
Well, so yeah, I don't know what I would be really curious to see what that head-to-head would even look like, because like if that were to be the case, then the NBA train would have been rolling as one of the only sports out there for like a month. And so it's like there's going to be a lot more people that probably have a vested interest that wouldn't. So, I mean, the NFL's not going to give a shit because, I mean,
I still think the numbers, I think regular season, like opening week, Jets versus, the
Bills,
Steelers, like that's even if you have just a decent team involved in there, if the Packers are playing a crap team, people are still going to tune into that versus, watching the NBA finals. That's just the reality of it. But I mean, I think we will probably see a season start before mid-July.
I don't
Like
know
if you
about
go July 1, you finish mid-August, that's kind of perfect as far as off-season leading into Christmas, as we've talked about it at length here.
I love that idea so much, and I that it's headed that way no matter what happens here. I mean, that's probably done.
And that's just another 5 weeks of data of I don't know how much social distancing is going on in Orlando, but that's a very, like, from what I've seen, what I've read, a very, very big space. So everything is very spread out. There's a safe way to do it. There's going to be limited family members involved. So I think it's going to be able to be pulled off here. I mean, obviously there's a million different concepts out there.
I'll be real honest with you. You just mentioned this. I was surprised to hear at all that like families would be involved in any way, shape, or form.
Yeah, I am too.
You got to, though, right? Like you got to try to keep these guys' heads on somehow. Right?
Yeah, but
like
you got to limit it to just the immediate family.
Well, yeah, I mean, I think it would be like only a 2-person thing or whatever, that kind of deal.
Right.
I was surprised that that's even an option, though, to be honest with you. I get it, but like I was surprised that's even being considered. I would just think that the less people, the better, period.
Yeah, obviously, but I think, as you just said, the players' mental health is going to be a part of it. I mean, you got to think about what they've already, I say been going through in the last 2 months. Yeah, these guys are living relatively lavish lifestyles, at least the stars are, but it's like it still can mess with anybody's head. So I think it'd be the right thing to have the families there. They're just going to have to be really, really smart with it. And I think Adam Silver is putting that plan together. That's why it's taking so long. So that's why I think July 1st is probably a realistic date.
I still don't think that, to be honest with you. I think all of that is very pipe dreamish. And I think that they're obviously putting plans out there and working out contingencies and figuring it out. And I think that pretty much what we've talked about throughout this whole thing is like, you have to, it's like the NFL starting, like you have to proceed as if business is going to happen as usual. And you have to continue to figure out plans. But I mean, every deadline that's set, things are pushed back, things are pushed back. And I mean, there's the whole big debate about the 7 and 8 seed and how do you handle that and reseeding 1 to 16 and all that. And like, I mean, those teams like Portland that are just on the outside looking in are going to want a chance at a revenue split in the playoffs because, that's their last shot at revenue period this year. And so it's one of those things where like, I can understand from a business standpoint where you do that. So there's just a lot to factor in, I guess, and figure out.
Yeah, it's tough because, I mean, everybody wants to play and get a paycheck. You're going to have to eliminate some teams, though. Like, it just doesn't make sense to have the Knicks or the Warriors there. It just really doesn't. I think the regular season is out of question.
I think that's short-sighted because, Clay and Steph would more than likely be back by that point. I don't know about Clay necessarily, but Steph was back before the season stopped.
Yeah, but with just that team, they're not going to win anything. But it's like they shouldn't be rewarded. They shouldn't be allowed to play in and get hot after being 50 and 15.
That's
15 and 50. You can't do that.
If you're the best team out there, you're the best team out there. That would be the most chaotic, funny thing ever.
They weren't in a mathematical position to make the playoffs, though. Like, only teams that were in a mathematical position to make the playoffs should be involved in it, which that's even hard to say because you look at the Wizards, who are the 9th spot, right, in the East. So they're, technically 1 spot out of it, but they're 16 games under 500. That's ridiculous.
Let's put them in the play-in. Let's just do it. Come on.
Yeah, like you have to anybody that's not an 8 seed in the East you can't show up. And that's just Washington, Charlotte, Chicago, Knicks, Pistons, Hawks, Cavs. Like, I'm good on that. None of those teams need to be involved.
Would Kevin Durant play?
I don't think it would matter. Because Kyrie's not going to play.
You don't think one of the top 10 to 12 best players of all time would matter?
It would make them better, but Kyrie's not going to play. They're not going to win a championship with him and Karis LeVert.
Why would Kyrie not play?
Kyrie's hurt.
Is he?
He might be good by now.
That's what I'm saying. He was supposed to be good by the beginning of the next season. So
what do you want? I was under the impression that you wanted just a standard playoff format, but it sounds
that's going
to
happen. We're not going to do. I want chaos no matter what. I'm always, you know me, I'm always pulling for some kind of chaos. But no, they're not going to do any kind of single elimination type thing. The NFL, the NBA Board of Governors doesn't feel like. I think that's a dated term now. I don't think they call themselves the Board of Governors anymore. I think it's like something weird now, or
I don't know.
I can't remember exactly, but I know that the term owner isn't used. And I want to say they got rid of all that. Anyway, they don't like that format of anything other than a 7-game series deciding a playoff series, which I get that. I don't hate that either. I think it's got to be full force.
It's got to be 7-game series. It's not a tainted. It's not a tainted championship. That's what they got to avoid, is having 2020 be asterisks, and it's not. I mean, they played 60-something games. They played less than other lockout seasons. If there's a full normal playoff, I have no problem with it. Are you? If we're just going to do top 16 teams, are you in favor of keeping conferences, or do you want to see 1 through 16?
Hell no, reseed it 1 through 16.
That's what I think.
Yeah, absolutely reseed it.
I do think that the NBA is going to do some kind of play-in, though. Like, more than 16 teams are going out there. When you bring in, Dame and Zion, when you introduce, even if you just expanded to 20 teams, Dame and Zion are now involved. And, like, the NBA is going to want to do that for viewership.
Yeah, I could see that for sure. I'm looking to see kind of like what I forget. I'm looking at the standings real quick to find out kind of where how everything would shake out in that exact case. So give me.
All I know is the Mavs, whether you reseed it 1 to 16 or keep it as is, they're playing the Clippers.
Right.
If you play it, they're 2-7 in the West, and then they're 13-4 overall. So it would be them playing the Clippers no matter what, which is just going to be a slaughter fest. That's why, if we get a play-in tournament, maybe that changes our seed up a little bit.
Okay, here you go. So you would have the pairings would be the Bucks playing the Magic. So that's 1 and 16. Then you would have the Heat playing the Thunder. That'd be a pretty good series. You'd have the Clippers playing the Mavericks, the Celtics playing the Sixers. That'd be a good series. The Raptors playing the Grizzlies, the Nuggets playing the Pacers, the Jazz playing the Rockets, the Lakers playing the Nets.
I like all those matchups. I think the Lakers and the Bucks have a much easier ride than anybody else. Like, the Clippers having the Mavs is a much shittier matchup versus having to play the Magic or the Nets.
Yeah, definitely.
It's a tough draw, but I mean, that's how it's going to go. I really think that the play-in tournament is in play, though, because if you think about it, the fringe teams will then be involved. So what the NBA gets out of that is all their young stars, aside from Dame. You get Dame, who's a top, I would say probably 8 as far as like guys you want to watch on TV.
Mm-hmm.
And then you get Luka, you get Zion, you get Ja, you get all those guys involved now in the play-in tournament. I think that makes it more exciting.
I
know I'm not okay. I'm telling you how the NBA is viewing it for ratings. I don't necessarily want to see that, because that puts the Mavs at risk of getting eliminated after having a really good season. They're a game and a half from the 5th seed.
Yeah, no, I mean, that's a very good point. I'm sure that's how they're looking at it too, though. They're looking at massive revenue makeup here, especially because you're not going to have nearly as many fans in the stands or at all. I don't really know how that would how that would all work out, but regardless,
it's not going to happen in Orlando. There's not going to be fans in the NBA.
No, definitely not. But it's just one of those things where, like, I understand why you would be on board to tamper with the product in this given circumstance, because it is one of those things where you have it's just a weird season no matter what happens here. And so I've been a fan of reseeding always. I don't think the East and the West should matter at all. I don't understand why that's a thing still, because you look at these first round matchups, these are significantly better than the first round matchups that we saw last year.
I agree with that.
I
think we're headed that direction anyways.
You mean the reseeding?
Yeah.
Yeah.
I think it was going to happen in the next 2 or 3 seasons anyways. But yeah, I agree. The matchups are a lot more intriguing. Outside of the two at the top, they're all really good. It could probably go either way. I mean, the Mavs would have a tough time beating the Clippers, but I mean, you could see the Sixers beating the Celtics, or the Grizzly giving the Raptors a hard time. Like, that's very possible.
I would much rather play the Sixers than I probably would the Raptors. I'm not really sure actually about that.
Yeah, the Raptors are like the 3rd seed overall. You're not going to put Boston's the 5th seed. I mean, Boston's in a good position. I told you the other day, I think depending on how Kemba's health holds up and how these guys have been taking care of themselves, I think Boston is in a good position to make a run in the East.
In this case though,
Giannis basically.
Well, in this case, the East and the West wouldn't matter. It would all. I guess
that's true, but I mean, how far they're seated. So if they go standard, I think they can easily win the East. And then based on where they're seated, they get Philly. I think that's a winnable series. And then, I mean, they're a relatively high seed. They're not going to have to face that Harvard team until the semifinals.
For sure. I mean, it definitely increases the odds in that aspect. I would say though that my only argument, I guess, would be that this is all based on what was happening 2 months ago, and it's going to be an interesting restart if that's how we're going. Like that I don't think is talked about or looked about enough, is just the amount of chemistry that takes to put these teams together.
Yeah, and that's where like there's some merit in having regular season games played so that guys can get the rust off and get back in the groove, because obviously guys live in different cities, they have different access to different things. But I mean, one, that's increasing risk. Mm-hmm. Two, it's like, does that really make sense? Like, is a 3 to 6 game regular season edition going to change the seeding that much? Probably not.
No, probably not. I mean, just for those couple of teams at the bottom, kind of what I was saying about the revenue share thing earlier. Aside from that, I mean, it's probably not going to make much of a difference.
I mean, the revenue share is a big issue, and I mean that's where I think it's crazy. Like, if you're going to bring 16 teams, okay. 20 teams, okay, but I think it's absolutely insane if you're going to say, okay, I'm going to eliminate the bottom 2 teams or the bottom 6 teams. Like, don't exclude just 2 or 6 teams. Like, that doesn't make sense.
Yeah, because I mean, ultimately in a 7-game set too, you have to. I mean, we've talked about this a lot on the show. The better team ultimately wins that series, and so like if you like, I don't think there's a whole lot of backdooring into the playoffs like you do in baseball, kind of thing.
Or the healthier team in the Raptors case.
Yeah, not by much though.
Yeah.
Not by a whole hell of a lot. I by the way, I'm about to start the Kevin Durant book, the Kevin Durant book, the book that they wrote about the Warriors and Kevin Durant joining the team, called Victory Machine. Pretty looking forward to that for sure. I'll let you know how it is. So
yeah, right. Good timing for the cap spike to happen, and then he got beat by him and wanted to go there. I mean, I'm interested to read that too. I got to get on that after I finish up my my Silk Road book.
I'm like I've got maybe I'm like 3/4 of the way through it.
Damn.
So I'm almost done.
You're much quicker than I am.
Much further along.
Yeah,
dude, it's a wild read. I'm listening to it, but it's an incredible book too. The book about Silk Road. Listeners, go check it out. It's awesome. Anyway, so I do think though the better team wins in a 7-game set though, and that ultimately keeps teams from backdooring in. So that makes me feel a little bit better about doing some sort of play-in tournament. And I get that like teams are going to want to make up the revenue and all that, but like, so I can't remember. I don't know if you'll know this or not, but is it like so the whole league, since it's set up on a cap, is revenue shared throughout, right? So is there regular season and then playoff shares?
Yes.
Is that how it works? Okay.
Yep.
Gotcha. That's on top of that. Got it.
So that's why really being like that 9 seed is or 10 seed is terrible, because you're right outside of you're like at the very back of the lottery and you're not getting the additional revenue.
Dude, the most upsetting part is that the Knicks are going to take a bath over this whole thing.
I mean, dude, I read so many funny things about the Knicks when I was just preparing for today's pod, just trying to get up on like what is the most. I saw the Woj article that you're talking about, just trying to see the most recent stuff. One is their coaching, who the Knicks are looking at for coaching between Thibodeau and Kenny Atkinson. It's just like, it's not even like personal to those guys, even though I don't think they're great coaches. Thibodeau, I think, can be the right coach with the right team, but they don't have the right players in there anyway. Like, it's not going to start with Tom Thibodeau. That's not going to change the culture. It's a top-down issue.
I mean, it'll change the culture, but it won't matter.
It won't change the culture to a winning one.
Correct. It'll make it far worse, is my guess.
Yeah. And then I saw this. Dude, this is pretty depressing. The New York Post is doing New York sports what ifs over the last 30 years, which there's a ton of. And Del Curry basically told the Knicks, told Pat Riley, like, take Curry, take my son at 7. They had to trade up one spot, and they didn't take him, and they took Jordan Hill right after him. It's just incredible.
Son of a bitch. They took Jordan Hill.
Dude, they had so many. DeMar DeRozan went right after that. So they could have whiffed on Steph and still got DeMar DeRozan, but they ended up with Jordan Hill. It's like, you really got it. You really got it.
That's tough.
It's bad.
Yeah. I mean, you're just looking to shoot yourself in the foot in situations like that, right?
What, dude, did you see this thing about Zion's agent though? Real quick, I have to bring this up.
Yeah, so
the former marketing agency.
Okay, so I saw a little bit about this. I saw that he tested, like he did something to where he wouldn't have to testify in court on behalf of himself or something like that, right?
Yeah. So this former marketing agency that I guess was representing him, which I would assume, I guess he's 18 when that happened. Maybe his parents were involved in it. Were basically saying that he got paid to go to Duke, and they were trying to probe him with that and ask him questions. And he basically, I guess, is objectifying to that. Yeah, he's definitely not going to do that, and he's making that documented that he's not going to do that because he probably got paid. And it's like, who gives a shit? I hope he got paid. Like, that's the system you guys set up. He could have gone to the NBA out of college, but you told him to go to, or out of high school, but you told him to go to college. So, I mean, he did.
But I don't understand. Then they get rid of that? Isn't like, can't players in college have representation now and stuff and make money from their likeness? Isn't that no?
I think they can make money from their likeness, like if they have like jersey sales in the pro shop and things like that, or online maybe. But I don't think you can take direct bank wires from like the Duke endowment fund into your, Chase account. That might be a little different.
Yeah, it's a little different. I mean, first of all, he was getting paid. That's just a fact.
Yeah, for sure, dude. Like, and he should. Like,
yeah, you think that Nike deal wasn't like established before he blew out his shoe? Come on, what are we talking about here? Yep. It's absurd. So he pleads the fifth. Are they like investigating Coach K? Is that what's going on here?
I don't. Yeah, no, they're not investigating Coach K. They're investigating that particular situation with Zion, but I don't think that has that many legs. I really think that's kind of a reach because he got rid of this marketing agency as he came to the league.
I mean, yeah, I guess
so. They're probably just
he's
it's
not a
vindictive.
Guy, right? Probably so. He's not a clutch guy, right?
No, he's not a clutch guy, and that's why him and LeBron aren't as cool.
That's right.
Is he CCA? I'm trying to think who he's with. Yeah, he specifically did not go with clutch.
That's right. I remember that being a story too. Interesting. Yeah, like I feel like Krzyzewski's gone to this place where it's like he was always so above reproach, right? And then like you have like Patino get busted, and like that was rough, man. Like that is probably like that's
different than paying people. Like that's right. Like I would have a little bit more of an issue with that.
But I feel like he was kind of the above reproach, and then like the Patino thing happened, and it kind of exposed all these guys for kind of being that guy, like no matter what. And now he just seems so terrifying that nobody's really going to call him on it because he is one of the most winningest coaches of all time. I mean, I guess it is what it is, but I mean, it's not like
if you look at, I'm just looking at the guys they've put in the league over the last several years. I mean, yeah, dude. I mean, just with Kyrie, Tatum, and Zion, it's like, I mean, he's getting guys out there somehow.
Do you have kind of a list of the last like 10 years or so?
Yeah, like those are the ones that stood out to me as probably the best players in the NBA. I mean, you can look at like JJ Redick and Jahlil Okafor were amazing in college, but not as great NBA players. JJ's had a hell of a career though.
Okafor got ruined by the Sixers.
Yeah. Ruined. He went like third overall.
Yeah.
Seth Curry, Brandon Ingram. I mean, dude, it's a lot of players. I think Marvin Bagley's still going to be good. I think Wendell Carter's going to be good. Rodney Hood. That's a really good list. Jabari Parker, man, 3 ACL injuries. That guy could have been incredible. Austin Rivers, Justice Winslow. It's a really good list.
I wonder how Krzyzewski feels about the one and done rule and whether they should get rid of it or not. I have a feeling I know.
Yeah, I would say definitely not. But I don't hate the idea where they say, okay, you can go out of high school, but if you go to college, you got to do 2 years. Like, that's not a terrible rule.
No, that's how it
benefits both sides.
Right. Like JB's big on this. Like he talks about this all the time, and he's more of a proponent of no matter what, you always have the connections, and that's great. But like that's just not, at least in the basketball form of things, that's not realistic that guys go back to school. They just don't. Like there's too much money to be made in the league anymore to do that. Like, you know, people like Julius Randle get paid these days.
Is that JB's take? That's JB's take? He's used to looking at NFL deals. NFL deals don't have as much guaranteed money. These kids, if they go in the top 10, can't pass up that kind of guaranteed money.
Well, right. And further than that, like they don't need college to develop. It's just a different thing. And if you're going to go for 3 or 4 years or, 2, 3, 4 years, great. Like there's no problem with that. There are plenty of players that have come out like that have stayed longer in college and been just fine in the NBA.
It also makes
though. It doesn't need to be 1 year. That's bullshit. That's bullshit.
It makes no sense to have them there for 7 months on campus. Like 2 years, that benefits the program because you get chemistry, so your team's probably better if it's a great player, and you also get just the ability to make money off of them for 2 years versus them being out of there in just one. But you got to give the kids the ability to go to the pros right out of high school, even though, I mean, when you look back historically, it didn't really work out that well for very many guys. For every KG, Kobe, and LeBron, there's, Sebastian Telfair and a host of other guys.
I think there's a third option, though, that's not talked about nearly enough, and that's using the actual G League for development. Are guys able to sign straight with the G League now?
Well, so you can get drafted and then just be on like a 2-way contract. That's what they should do for some of these kids that come out of high school. Just give them 41 games in the G League, 41 games in the NBA.
Or just, if you want, like, just treat it like a minor league version of the NBA and just say, okay, I'm going to sign a contract with the main red clause, and I'm going to play my way into the NBA. And you play your way in, you get in, and you bring them up just like you would the majors in baseball. You have a stronger farm system for your actual team, a lot more depth, and you have a way for players to actually develop with real NBA talent, and not waste their time in college if they don't want to.
I think that's fair. And I mean, I think you could keep that still as just one league. Like you don't have to do 2 leagues underneath the NBA like baseball does, or 3.
No, definitely not. It just needs to be one. But I'm just saying that kind of structure where it gives you a feeder system, because every team has a G League affiliate now, right?
Yep. Every team is a G League. So, I mean, you put them in that quote unquote farm system, and it's like you can just pay them whatever the G League contracts are. Yeah. Like there's somewhere between 50 to 100,000. I mean, that's good. That's way better money than them going to college. Well, we don't know what got slid into Zion's account, but might have been a little higher than that. But no, I'm just kidding. Allegedly. But money. I mean, I think that's the right way to do it. I mean, you're still giving these kids a good salary. They know they're going to get paid when they go to the league, and they're developing their game. And it's like, maybe you stay 2 years. Okay, you're 20 years old now.
Yeah, I mean,
you're ready. You're a lot more ready.
So you would have to have some kind of like, I don't know. I'm not really sure if you would really have to have some kind of like service time in the G League type thing before they bring you up or not. Because imagine if Zion would have just gone straight to the G League. Like the natural inclination would be, we got to get this guy to the NBA now.
You see 140-20 game, you're like, all right, we're going to get this guy in here.
Could you imagine the backdoor shady ass deals that it would take to get Zion to sign with the main red clause, or like the
oh my God,
all the different affiliates? That'd be great, dude.
Dude, I think that's actually a good idea, and I think that's something they're going to try to transition to. I mean, they've even talked about trying to do that with the NFL.
Yeah, they should, but the NFL,
which they should,
thinks way too much of themselves, and they don't.
College football just makes way too much money, especially compared to college basketball.
Yeah, absolutely.
Outside of March Madness, college basketball makes absolutely nothing.
Yeah. Exactly. Did you happen to see? Speaking of that, I don't know if you ran across this, but what's that dude's name that signed with Texas Tech? This is more college ball, but
I didn't see it.
He's like a grad transfer. He's like one of the biggest names out there. He's supposed to be fucking incredible. I can't think of the name off the top of his head. I'll think of it.
Is it a quarterback?
No. Sorry, this is college basketball.
Oh, okay.
It was all over the damn place. Anyway, this girl had said that she'd give $5 to anybody that retweeted and liked it, and the whole thing went absolutely viral. And she owed like $116,000 to people, and he actually ended up signing there.
Damn, that's crazy.
Yeah,
that's awesome.
Twitter could get you in trouble.
No shit. Transitioning back to the league, though, do you think whatever playoff format that we have, do you think there's any team besides the 2 LA teams in Milwaukee that can win the championship?
I have no idea without looking at them. I really don't. Like, I would have to see some kind of well, I don't know what Philly's going to bring to the table. I don't know how well Joel Embiid's going to look. I don't know how well Siakam. Like there's just a lot.
It won't be Philly. I'll tell you that much. It won't be Philly.
You know what? I'm not saying that, but I'm just saying, like, I don't know what guys like that are bringing to the table. That really,
I think a young team like Boston could be really feisty.
That's what I'm saying. Like, I have no idea what they're going to bring back to the table, and that's, I mean, it makes it really hard to predict, I guess. But I like everything else holding steady. I don't see anything other than those three.
Yeah, I give like a 5% chance to the field outside of those three.
Oh, if that, that better be plus money.
But I'd like to see the odds though, and we'll have to do if we get these odds up pretty quickly once things get announced. Hopefully here in the near future, we'll have to come on here because if they do standard conference with the East, and Boston's like plus 300, plus 350 to win the East, I'm all over that. And I might throw a flyer on them to win it all.
I mean, depending on what the actual line would look like, yeah, I would think that would be really good.
If it's like plus 1,200, plus 1,500.
I think you could find like some things that would be like just anybody but the Lakers, anybody but the Clippers, anybody but the Bucks, probably some plus money there. I think those would be interesting ways to look too. And I think if you took a specific team, that'd be even better.
Yeah, I think Bucks, Lakers, and Clippers will be all like plus 300 or plus 350 and below.
I mean, we're going to have to live stream so many playoff games of us watching just because we're going to want to watch this together.
Yeah, that's what would make that play-in tournament fun, though, is just the viewing experience of that. But then it's just such a shit show. Like, the Mavs get eliminated by the Kings, I'm going to be up in arms.
I'd vomit. Vomit in half, dude. I'd be so pissed.
Dude, did you see? I don't know if you saw it. Kevin O'Connor on Simmons Pod put together the World Cup, the way they do groupings. Like, that idea is truly being considered.
Okay, so talk about that a little bit. What is
World Cup grouping? So basically, you lock the top 4 seeds, which is Milwaukee, Lakers, Clippers, and Raptors. Actually, Raptors then Clippers, but those 4 teams. And then you basically have 16 other teams. So we are going back to that 20 number, right? So it's the 16 teams that are in the playoffs currently, plus the 4 in the West that have the better record. So 20 total teams. We're leaving 10 out, so you're not singling people out or teams out. You then take those 16 teams and randomize it. So you have 4 groups, right? And those top 4 seeds are each the 1 seed. Those groups. They randomize everything else. So it can end up being, that's where you get those group of deaths in the World Cup, is because, when 4 really good teams get put into that group, it could be difficult. So, imagine if the Mavericks get randomized into they actually match up against the Lakers. Well, the Clippers group, because we can't seem to get away from the Clippers. And then the other teams in there are like, Boston, Philly, and I'm just trying to think of like tough teams, the Jazz or the Rockets. It's like that could be a really difficult grouping where the Lakers could draw the Magic, the Nets, the Grizzlies. It's like, okay, well, that's kind of shitty.
That'd be wild. Did he put this up on the Ringer?
Yeah. There's a YouTube video of it that makes that probably a little more clear of what I'm actually saying. But it's incredible. Soccer fans are familiar, I'm sure. But I would actually kind of be in favor of that just because of the randomness that's involved there. I think there's a really good chance that they do something like that we get a winner that we're not expecting.
I agree with that. And I think I agree with that. I don't know. Like, I'm literally coming out of this like having next to no expectations for anything other than like, I mean, there was some true dominance being shown 2 months ago, but like what if, I mean, you got to consider you're coming back with things like the Jazz situation where, they were kind of shit in the bed a little bit, but like, Gobert and like, that whole situation, you got that to deal with. I mean, you got Jokic in Denver who was playing himself into shape in the season. Like, what's that going to look like? What's Michael Porter Jr. going to there's a lot to consider that could have changed in 2 months that we haven't seen or know about.
Yeah, I wonder if Michael Porter Jr. can stay healthy. I mean, you'd think this is enough time to recover. He was really looking good when he was playing solid minutes. I'm still high on him if he can stay healthy. Dude, the fact that Chris Paul has OKC above the Rockets, the Pacers, the Sixers, that's insane.
Are you just talking about in the standings like as it lies? Where are they sitting right now?
They are, as far as the West, they are the 5 seed overall. They are
like the 6 seed,
the
probably?
9 seed. Yeah, the 9 seed.
Okay.
But I mean,
I'm right now myself.
Dude, the Rockets are the 10 seed. That's underperforming for having 2 of the 6 highest paid players in the league.
Yeah. Oh, for sure. Like there's, I guess
I don't have to sell you on that being an underperformance.
Well, yeah, but I'm not a Chris Paul guy at the end of the day. Like, I just get out of the second round once. That's all I ask.
Oh, I was talking about the Rockets, but yeah, I don't think OKC can make a run here. I just don't see a world where they're going to make a run. I do think Houston can be feisty though if they come out hot. Right, it's going to depend on who's more synced up. I do think teams that have played together a little bit longer are obviously going to have an advantage. Once again, going back to your Boston guys, that young group's been together for a while now. I think that bodes well for them. That Milwaukee unit would be pretty locked in. But the Lakers and the Clippers, those are new looks. Like those teams aren't going to be – they're going to be relying on talent more than chemistry.
Definitely. And that was almost always kind of the case. Speaking of James Harden, have you seen that picture of him with the scraggly beard during quarantine?
No.
It's pretty rough, man.
Got a little Kimbo Slice action going on?
It is something. I will throw it up here on the screen here just a second so you can see it.
Yeah,
but
perfect.
yeah, no, I mean, I could see them being feisty, especially being well rested and everything. But it's just hard for me to really like look past what the Clippers and the Lakers have been doing, man. Like leading up to this, like they were so dominant all the way through from start to right up when we stopped, and the Lakers were getting on a nice little run there coming out of the break.
Dude, yeah, I mean, I was pleading on here that LeBron should be the MVP because right before the season got shut down, that weekend before, they beat the shit out of Milwaukee. He was the best player on the floor. They beat the shit out of the Clippers. He was the best player on the floor. And I felt like they were locking in. But I picked the Clippers at the beginning, so I'm going to stick with it.
I think that's fair. And I'm 100% with you. I'm not picking against like what I initially thought, but I definitely
it's definitely one of the LA teams though. I love Giannis, but I don't think Milwaukee's there with the rest of the surrounding cast.
I mean, I don't think that we would have gotten that admission out of you I mean, I think we would have gotten that admission out of you regardless of what happened, but I'm with you. I'm pulling up the Harden photo so you can see it here real quick.
Perfect. Josh isn't here to defend that take. I know he thinks this is okay.
Look how skinny he is.
Yeah, that's the first thing that's exactly what I was just thinking.
It's not great.
I mean, dude, if he's just walking around, out there in jeans, man, skinny jeans, it's a good way to burn some cows.
Yeah, absolutely.
I always think of him as a pretty like stocky guy. He looks really thin right there.
Yeah, I mean, you got to wonder. You got to wonder what that'll look like. So I don't know, man. I think there could definitely be some interesting matchups, though, and I think it's just really going to depend on some of the seeding. But I think people are going to be so starved for sports and everything to be back that if it does come back, that they're just going to be chomping at the bit at almost every series.
Yep. And I mean, who's really going to reap the benefits here is, yeah, they've lost some revenue for sure, but ESPN and ABC, obviously owned by Disney, so it's really Disney. They're going to host it in Orlando. They're going to have ESPN. They're going to have ABC. That's 2 of the 3 networks that play NBA basketball.
What the hell ever happened to like antitrust and like monopoly shit?
Yeah, that's a monopoly. TNT is the only thing involved there that's not Disney.
Right, like Disney owns fucking everything.
Granted, that's my favorite. I'd much rather watch Chuck, Shaq, Ernie, and Kenny than any of the other shows, hands down.
Someone asked me the other day, they were like, when was the last time you heard from Chauncey Billups? And I was like, I don't know, like 2 months ago? And not that long ago. Why? They're like, oh, he was so dominant, and I was like, yeah, he's still an announcer. Like I was,
yeah,
I don't understand what.
Yeah, he's. I think he's ABC, but yeah, I mean, I think that's pretty much the guarantee is that it's going to be in Orlando. I think Silver's really being delicate with it. I think he's putting the plan together. I like the July 1st date. I know you're a little off that, but it can't be much later than that. We said it a minute ago or a while ago. It has to be, like mid-July. That is the latest you could push it.
That's what I've been saying ever since this all started, was that's all you can do. Like there's no real later, because you got to have a full off season too, where you have to figure out free agency, you got to figure out the draft, you've got to figure out, they haven't even done the lottery. Like there's still a lot to be done that would typically be done already by now. And there's a lot to figure out. And that they're going to want to start it by Christmas, right? Like that's Christmas, like the Christmas thing's almost certainly happening, I think.
Yeah, I mean, yeah, absolutely, because we're already on pace for it to finish so late that they're going to have to obviously start at a different time than October, and Christmas just makes sense. That's the NBA's best day of the regular season.
Definitely. I didn't even get to talk to you about the ending of the MJ doc. What do you think? Like, what did you think about the ending of or the last 2 episodes, and then what did you think about it overall?
I think MJ beat another weak opponent that LeBron could have beat as well. No, I'm just kidding. I think the Jazz were a decent team, but I think that team was kind of overrated. It was a complete mismatch. I think it was obviously constructed to put Jordan in a specific light, but overall, I thought it was relatively accurate, even though there was definitely some maybe some padding of particular events. I thought it was the on-court action. I thought was captured really well. I enjoyed the last 2 episodes, but it definitely leaves you feeling at the end like, what the fuck happened here? Like,
yeah,
how did they not bring Jordan back for one more? He was so confident that when he said he thought they were gonna win the 7th, or at least make a good run at it. And there's no reason to think that they wouldn't have. They would have played in '99. They would have played the Spurs in the finals if they got there with old ass Robinson, super young Tim Duncan, Sean Elliott, maybe. Tony Parker's not in the league till 2001.
That's right. Yeah, he was a little earlier.
So that was Timmy's very first one.
Wow. Yeah. So that's
their very first one. That was Pop and the Spurs first.
Do you think Pippen would have done it? Doesn't sound like he was
himself. No.
I'm saying, do you think he would have come back?
He might have been out of there, but I still think Mike might have been able to win it.
I know so. I know that to be a fact.
Because that Spurs team isn't any better than that Jazz team.
No. If anything, they're probably a little bit worse at that point. Just because, having Karl Malone and John Stockton alone is at least a duo, and you're still talking about young TV.
You had the Twin Towers, but yeah, it was a little. They're pretty far apart in age, but I love the MJ and the just psychotic behavior with Brian Russell, where he's talking about when he was playing baseball. Brian came and visited him at the facility and told him, like, why'd you quit the league? I can lock your ass up or something along those lines. He just little black book. I'm gonna fucking own this guy. He did it in the biggest moment.
Yeah, He did. I just
It was a push off, but who cares? I mean, it's still a good bucket.
yeah. Oh, for sure. It's not that bad of a push off. I've definitely seen more egregious push offs.
Yeah.
I mean, remember the was I can't remember when this was. I know it was this season, but I don't remember like at what juncture when LeBron like quote unquote took that one to the face and like definitely hammed it up. And when was that? Was that like early in the season?
Yeah. Yeah. It was
Okay.
beginning of this year.
Hilarious. It wasn't anything like that. It wasn't that egregious. It was definitely more of a push than that, but not by a lot. I mean, it was a fine bucket. But I thought that it was told definitely sucked Jordan's dick a lot. That's a given. I mean, that's kind of to be expected.
It slowly got more that way towards the end as well.
Yeah, 100%. Because you knew that they weren't going to make it about. Like, it wasn't going to be made to be about him, as far as like his fault. You knew that was not going to be the story that was going to be painted there. You knew it was going to be other people's faults. I thought that the story about the pizza in the hotel room was the biggest crock of shit I've ever heard.
Yeah, I mean, they basically just said he got food poisoned.
Yeah, like
that. It was the food poisoning game, not the flu game. It's like what?
What the fuck? I don't doubt that he was off in that game because he seemed off in that game. But
did
like,
five guys show up to deliver the pizza?
Right? Like, no, absolutely not. And for like, what do they do? They call up and be like, "Hey, we want one large pepperoni. Just come into Michael Jordan's room." Like, is that like I know for a fact in baseball, they in hotels and stuff, they like put register. I'm sure they do this in the NBA too. They registered them under all fake names and stuff
There's
like that.
Absolutely room service there too, right?
Right. Absolutely.
Like, where are they staying? Or they just got them up in like, a Holiday Inn Express?
Right. Like, and
no way.
I've been known to make fun of Salt Lake City and Utah in general a lot. I've only been once, so I can't really speak to a whole lot of it. It was going through there. It wasn't really being there for too long. But I can confidently say that I would just be willing to wager that even back then, I don't think that every restaurant in the town shut down at like 9:00 at night. I don't think that's accurate.
Yeah, and I don't think the guys working at 10:30 in a Salt Lake City suburban Pizza Hut know that the NBA players that come through town stay in that hotel.
Well, I can't imagine they stay at the same one every time because of that.
That's what I'm saying.
Yeah, so that was one of the bigger crocks of shit. And like, it's one of those things where like, if you didn't feel good, if you were off, just say that. That's okay. It just felt like I hate things where I'm like, why are you lying to me about this? Why are you lying?
It would make more sense that he took a trip to Atlantic City and was just extremely hungover after he just got wrecked for 100,000.
Yeah, I mean that's very, very likely that could have happened. So
just took a private jet, just like your boy Kraft.
I mean,
the night before.
I mean, he is MJ, but things like that made me kind of second guess. I think you're right. I think as it went on, it definitely got more and more like that, where it was more about telling some stories. And
dude, the Steve Kerr stuff was wild.
Right. So did you know that about him?
No, not at all.
It's funny. I told Josh this last episode, but I happened to be listening to, do you remember David Axelrod? He was Obama's chief of staff.
Yeah.
He used to have he still does, but it's a Patreon podcast now. But he had a podcast where he had Steve Kerr on and he talked about all that. And I was blown the fuck away by that whole story. And just, I mean, his dad was assassinated, dude.
Yeah. And where was it at in the Middle East?
It was at American College in like, because it was in like the, I forget exactly.
Somewhere in the Middle East, though. Yeah. And I mean, that's pretty insane for him to go over there and, because that's a really significant thing that he was doing, and then to be assassinated is wild.
He was in Beirut in Lebanon. That's right.
Okay. In Lebanon.
Yeah. I thought it was weird though, that they were like, did you ever talk to MJ about your dad and his dad? What? No,
dude. Like, played basketball together. What are you talking about?
Like, does Jordan seem like the kind of guy that's just going to open up his life and share deep feelings with you? What the fuck are you talking about?
Maybe if you gamble about who had more pain.
Oh my God. There were a lot of things like that where I was like, this is horse shit. This is unbelievable. But I thought that too, it tied everything up in a very specific way, and it's almost like as if all those questions hadn't been out there for 25 years about, the gambling and the, this and the that, all that stuff. Like, it just seems like there was an answer for everything, and that's very convenient to me.
Agreed. Let me ask you this. Do you think there is another player in NBA history, current or retired, that would have a 10-part documentary with as much intrigue?
Absolutely not.
Really?
Absolutely not.
I think there's a couple.
Well,
maybe.
Okay, so who do you think?
I think the first one is AI.
Okay. 10 parts, though?
I guess they did a 30 for 30. Yeah, 10 parts is tough.
10 parts is a lot. I think AI is incredibly interesting.
Yeah, I think you might be right, dude. I don't know who else you could go. Kobe or LeBron, maybe?
The problem is that whenever you get to maybe Kobe, and we'll probably see something like that, but part of what made this so cool was like the footage and that aspect of it. But like when you start to get to like LeBron, he's lived in the social media age where like
we know that story.
Yeah, we know that story, and like, maybe 20 years from now we're gonna forget it and want to go back on it, but I just don't see it being the same.
People would hate a LeBron doc.
Right now they would, but dude, 20 years from now, that's going to be very, very different. Maybe not. I don't know how long that would take. I mean, I guess 20 is about right, but like, I think give people long enough to miss him and forget about it.
Yeah, let's see what happens after he gets his 4th ring here and go from there.
All right, well, we'll see about that. But I could see the Kobe story being one of a whole lot of intrigue too, though, because his story's great.
Yep. And you could do it where it's like the 8 Kobe and then the 24 Kobe, and do it in like parts, like a part like that.
Ooh, you may not want to do that.
I wouldn't let you direct it. I know that much. Those would be 2 very different stories.
It would almost have to be 5 so you don't split it like that. No, but he's one of the only ones that came to my mind that could do that. The only one that I would want to see otherwise that they didn't do, and they talked about how they wish they would have, is I wish they would have done the same thing with the Warriors in that last season. I think that would have been awesome to see some of that footage.
I think they will. You're already seeing these books come out, right? I think they definitely will do something on those Warriors.
But I'm talking about like, because they wanted at the beginning of the season to do like a last dance kind of thing with KD.
That would have been sick. Yeah. That would have been where you're getting that throughout the season, kind
update.
Of, yeah, and that kind of like backstage look that you don't really get that, because Ahmad Rashad was the guy that was recording all of that. That would have been a lot easier to do now too.
Absolutely, because you would have like a whole lot more, like, I guess like everybody would have different footage and things that they could contribute. Like there's just a lot more readily available media that you could use now for something like that. And like I did notice that a lot is like all of it was kind of shot the same way. And I mean,
the
like
video still holds up pretty good for that long though.
Did right? Like they did a good job with like updating it and like, because we went back and watched a lot of those finals and stuff like that for our top
dude.
And it's hard to watch at times.
Hard to watch.
Especially the
mid-90s is where it gets a lot better.
Yes, like rapidly, and you can
like
tell.
The difference between 1990 and 1995 is drastic. But yeah, so I think those are the only guys you could maybe even consider. Kobe is maybe your best option.
I think he's one of the only options. You'll definitely be able to do something with Steph later on because he's that friendly. He's like Russell Wilson. It's going to be the same kind of thing.
Right. Do you think the reason they didn't do it for the Warriors is because, like, with the Bulls, when they were back after a big game or a big series win, they'd be, smoking cigars and just, gambling, chopping it up. Do you think the Warriors were just all just on their phone? Like, Steph goes off with Aisha and Draymond just does his thing. Clay goes and sparks a blunt, and KD's just on the burner phones. He's just got 6 flip phones out, and that's why they didn't show it, because they're all just doing their own thing. There's no camaraderie.
Draymond's calling him a bitch.
Yeah. Draymond's just stalking him out of the building while he's on 6 different phones.
I mean, probably something like that, man. There was not a lot of love there in that locker room towards the end, that's for sure. I can't wait to read this KD, or this. I keep saying it's the KD book, but it kind of is, because it's sort of the last year of him there and that run and what that was like. And
it's the Warriors book featuring the story of KD.
Correct. So I'm gonna get done with the Silk Road in the next couple of days, and I'll get on that. I'll let you know how it goes. I had one other thing for you. As far as the MJ doc, so overall, like I thought, like we talked about, like convenience of like telling the story, like it didn't touch on it. It didn't touch on like his time with the Wizards and all that kind of stuff, but it was very conveniently wrapped up in a foil of like, oh well, it's the Bulls documentary. You could kind of pull that card whenever you wanted, which is really interesting. So my question for you is, do you think that Jerry Krause got a bad rap because he wasn't able to be there to defend himself a little bit?
Yes, yeah, I do. I definitely do, because he did a hell of a job. I think he definitely got a bad rap, even though I disagree with him not wanting to go for that 7th ring.
I don't understand that, but like I definitely think that he kind of got dicked over just a little bit.
They treated him like shit, man.
I mean, how convenient. And so like I don't know much about this, and maybe you can shed some light on it, but like didn't MJ reference him in his Hall of Fame speech and he wasn't there or something like that?
Yeah.
Yeah.
So I mean, and ultimately, Scottie Pippen said, "Hey, this guy is the best, the best GM ever." He said, "Michael, I played with the best player ever, the best GM ever, or played for the best GM ever, and the best coach ever."
I mean, I'm trying to think. So played for the best GM, yeah. Okay. Oh, yeah, my thoughts on Phil. So like, I don't know if that's, for me, I don't know.
I think you could argue Phil's the greatest coach ever. You would probably say Red Auerbach, but
Red Auerbach's better. I think Pat Riley's a good, really good coach. I think.
Okay, well, he also coached, Magic, Kareem, Patrick Ewing. I think.
So did Phil.
I think it's Phil, but he won a lot more rings. I think it's Phil or Pop.
I'm not saying Phil's not a good coach. I'm just saying
Pop. Pop's maxed out rosters, talents like no other.
So if you're looking at it that way, like absolutely, it's Pop and probably a landslide. I don't even know if it's close. If you're looking at it that way, if you're talking about getting the most out of a team that wouldn't necessarily
definitely Pop.
It's definitely Pop. It's not even close.
And the reason I don't put Red Auerbach in there is because there's like 8 teams when they started. Like that's not as impressive when there's 30. I mean, you can't take the championships away from the guy. He's got the most rings, but it's just different. It's just different. It's hard to compare.
How would you feel if the Mavericks went into the Boston Garden and just got absolutely walloped by the Celtics, and in the third quarter he lit a victory cigar? How bad would you be pissed? Or how much would you be pissed? I'd be furious.
I would, but I'd also be like, that guy's badass.
Absolutely. I love it. Don't get me wrong. All right. Well, I thought the documentary was pretty good overall. I'm going to go back and do a rewatch. I think we should do that.
I give like a B+ overall.
Yeah. I started off really strong.
Yep.
Really strong. Definitely.
That might have just been us being a little thirsty.
Did it need to be 10 parts?
No. You could have made it like 6 to 8.
Yeah, I think so. It was a little long. I think that was definitely too much. You're on to the Lance Armstrong one, right?
Yes. Yeah, I'm just watched the first episode. I'm looking at I'm researching EPOs right now.
Oh, good.
All about that red blood cell count.
That's what Josh is out doing, is trying. He's running around the block.
Dude, the fact he came in second natural in a sport of cheaters is incredible.
When he wasn't cheating is unreal.
When he was like 20.
Yeah, unreal. Like, that guy's a psychopath, just like MJ was. Like, I don't think that, like, it's the same kind of mentality, right?
Yeah, I mean, it even maybe more so because it's an individual sport. So I mean,
and he was willing to cheat. So if you're not cheating, you're not trying. That's what they say.
That's what Barry Bonds will tell you.
Exactly. Yeah, no, it's an interesting one to look at too. It's only 2 though, and I think that's perfect length for something like that. Doesn't need to be any longer than that. So, all right, man. Well, we're gonna go ahead and get out of here. I think it's been good chatting with you. We'll be back next week with hopefully some NBA updates on what's actually going on. Otherwise, we're going to start creating some new shit to do. I don't know what that's going to be, but we'll be back here pretty soon. Hopefully Josh will be back with us next week.
Yep.
All right, man. Take it easy.
Later.